What's going on, Colts Nation? It's Elijah from Sports Talk Indy, where we break down everything going on with the Indianapolis Colts. And today is the beginning of the league meetings. And so with that comes potential rule changes. And league meetings are just a place for the NFL owners and general managers and head coaches to get together and have like a nice little fun party. But it also is a place where they sometimes exchange a lot of pleasantries are exchanged, but sometimes deals are done. Sometimes you kind of get a little bit of that. But the biggest thing that the league meetings produce is it produces rule changes, either for the upcoming season or the seasons, in a couple years from now. Sometimes you'll get a rule change that doesn't take an effect for 3 years. So there's a couple of rule changes that I want to kind of like break down. We're going through a report from Bleacher Report today. And the first one is one that would have altered the course of the playoffs for the Indianapolis Colts and for a lot of other teams. So the first one that I want to go over is a proposal by the Indianapolis Colts to permit a coach or replay official inside of 2 minutes to challenge any foul that has been called. Now, this stems from a play that happened with the Cleveland Browns, Indianapolis Colts, where there was a pass interference called that should not have been called. It was called specifically, there were two kind of iffy calls and one that was just blatantly not right at all between the Indianapolis Colts and the Cleveland Browns, and that sealed the game. That was it. There was nothing left they could do, and it was at that point a shootout. Like it was just punch, punch, punch. And so that the Indianapolis Colts proposed a rule that would allow the coach or official to replay the foul. I think this is a slam dunk, and unfortunately, it does not look like it's getting much traction at this league meeting. Maybe in league meetings in the future, but I think this would be a slam dunk, and I absolutely think that this would be super important inside of 2 minutes to be able to challenge fouls. Especially when you're talking about the outcome of the game, and the Colts were only out of the playoffs by 1 game, so you're talking about the potential of them being a playoff team, and who knows where they would have gotten if they had gotten to that point. There were so many holes in the roster at that moment with injuries and with everything going on. But I think this changes things, and I think that this would affect a lot of teams, especially in playoff implications, to be able to challenge significant plays. You got roughing the passer calls, you've got pass interference calls, you've got calls that are the big heavy natures, even your helmet to helmet unnecessary roughness calls. I think those should absolutely be able to be challenged when you're talking about the outcome of a game. So that's the one proposed by the Indianapolis Colts. Stephen Holder reported that it's not getting a ton of traction this year, but we're hoping that in years future that it will get a little bit more. But the other one is they're looking at banning hip drop tackles. And Zaire Franklin, who's our linebacker, posted a tweet the other day about like, oh, do we just have to go to two-hand touch now? Because obviously this is a big deal. It injures a lot of people, but at the same time, this is also one of the most effective way to tackle is your big tight ends and your bigger guys is to be able to drop and bring down. But this did injure Mark Andrews. It got an ankle. It's nothing that Andrews won't blame Wilson for the injury. Worth noting that Andrews didn't blame the tackler for the injury. And then per Clifton Brown, he said it was just kind of an unfortunate event. I'm hoping that this one doesn't get banned because I think that we're already at the point where the NFL has taken note that there's not as much offense in the past year as there was in years previous. And so I think that you're already starting to get to that trend of pulling away from offenses, which I hate, or pulling away from defenses, which I hate, So the pro of this is player safety, obviously. This is going to help a lot of guys stay healthy. Even the tacklers on these get injured quite a bit. It'll take time for players and officials to adjust. So I think that I'm thankful that this isn't getting a lot of traction because I just think that it's just part of the game. And I know that sounds insensitive, but in my opinion at least. So this one is getting more traction, and this is the new kickoff rule. With full speed collisions making the traditional kickoff a dangerous play, the league has now moved to make returns less frequent. Last year, the NFL added the option for returners to fair catch the ball at any spot on the field on kickoffs, resulting in at least the 25-yard line. However, fewer returns have made the kickoff all but a meaningless play, while devaluing players who specialize in return. The proposed 2024 change would implement a kickoff style similar to what fans have seen in the XFL last season. Under the proposed formats, kickers would still kick off from the 35-yard line, but the other 10 players from the kicking team would line up at the opposing 40-yard line. So they would line up 5 yards back, kind of similar to what they did for a long time before that. Until the ball hits the ground, it is fielded or lands in the end zone, the kicker cannot cross the 50-yard line. And the rest of the kicking team, along with those in the setup zone, cannot move. I don't like that. That feels too formal, too formatted. The pro of this is obviously that kickoffs would matter again, while still being safe. The con is no surprise onside kicks and no questionable scoring penalties. So I don't like this as much. I think that this is a little too formal. I want to bring back the kickoff. I think it'd be really great, but I hate this idea that you can't move until the ball touches the ground. Like that to me kind of seems a little silly. So that one is getting more traction though, just because I think that there's a lot of people who want to see the kickoff comeback. I'm one of them. I love the kickoff. I think it's I love the Oklahoma drill style play of just running into you. So I think that one would be fun, but I hate this idea that you have to you can't move until a certain point. That to me kind of seems silly. So the next one is the play clock review. This one is getting more traction as well. So far the ones that are getting traction are the kickoff and the play clock review. Everything else is kind of murmurs, but nothing's being put in set in stone. This one is, if you've ever been watching the NFL, seen the ball snapped with double zeros on the play clock, not seen a delay of penalty called, I wonder what the heck's going on, you're not alone. So this would essentially say that if there is reason to believe that the time was double zeros, that you would be able to throw a challenge flag. Now, typical challenge rules apply to this, as does the pass interference penalty that we talked about with the Colts proposing. So you only get 2 of these a game, obviously. You retain your challenge you retain your timeout if you win, sort of thing. So it would provide a little bit more accountability to the clock steppers. And then the last one we're going to go over is the expanded crackback block rules. This one, crackback blocks while an offensive player moves from the outer edge of the field towards the middle of the field and blindsides a defender, are already illegal. The proposed change would expand the rule to include players who go in motion and move beyond the center to block a defender at or below the knees. So essentially it's saying the same thing. Like these head-on-head blocks, or these head-to-head blocks are extraordinarily dangerous for both concussions and just you see a lot of guys with shoulders and chest injuries with these specific injuries, but especially as well, you're seeing a lot of knee injuries coming from these really fast head-on collisions, which is kind of part of the game is these big collisions, and football is a game of toughness. That being said, I would never in a million years go onto a football field and actually try and take one of these. But the pro of this is obviously player safety. A lot of these are going to be about player safety. The con of this is that there are so many more opportunities for penalties and missed calls. And so I think that's a big deal. I think that's a big reason why this would get pushback, especially from the NFLPA, is they're going to care a lot about player safety, which I agree with, but they're also going to care a lot about there's a lot of opportunities for these 15-yard penalties to get added on, and then obviously you're dealing with some free yardage for a team who maybe that gets their momentum going and all that stuff. So I think a lot of these are good. A lot of these I think are adding too many structures to the game and too many opportunities for refs to botch it up. Until we solve the NFL officiating problem, we're going to continue to have issues. And so I think that's kind of where my take on this is. I would love to see the Colts one happen just because I remember that game. I remember watching that game and just being absolutely heartbroken when it went down and the way it went down. It was just so crummy. So I'd love to see that one happen. Not as much a fan of some of the other ones, but the kickoff coming back I think would be great. And then, hopefully they don't ban hip drop tackles. So those are my takes. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, all this stuff. We're going to be breaking down Colts content every single day, especially leading up to the draft. We got top 30 visits to go over. We've got free agency stuff to go over. So we got a lot going on with the Indianapolis Colts and the NFL offseason. So stick around. We hope to see you on the next one.